Hey everyone, today I want to talk just a little bit about the shofar. Shalom everybody, and welcome to Beit Tefillah Basics. I've had several requests to make a video about the shofar, on what it is, what kind are we supposed to get, where do we get them, and how to blow it. Now I'm the last person that should be making a video on how to blow a shofar, as I'm not even remotely an expert. The instrument I'm more used to playing is a guitar, not a trumpet. But I had someone give me a couple tips years ago when I got one on how to blow it, so I thought I would share that with you. But first, let's talk about the shofar, or the ram's horn. Okay? The first time the word shofar is used in the Old Testament is in the following verse in Exodus 19:16. And it came to be on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain, and a voice of a shofar was very strong, and all the people who were in the camp trembled. So this almost sounds like God himself was blowing the shofar, because that had to be a scary thing, right? And that's why the people were so scared, because I'm sure they heard the shofar before. And I think most people remember what God instructed Joshua and the children of Israel to do regarding the walled city of Jericho. In Joshua 6:3-5. And you shall go around the city, all the men of battle going around the city once. Do this for 6 days. And let 7 priests bear 7 shofars of the Yobelim before the ark. And on the 7th day go around the city 7 times while the priests blow with the shofars. And it shall be, when they make a long blast with the horn of a yobel, and when you hear the voice of the shofar, that all the people shout with a great sound. And the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall go up, every man straight before him. So that had to be something to hear and see, right? Wow. But blowing the shofar can be a call to assembly, such as in Isaiah 27:13. And in that day it shall be that a great shofar is blown, and those who were perishing in the land of Ashur and the outcasts in the land of Egypt shall come, and shall worship Yahweh on the set-apart mountain in Jerusalem. And shofars can also be sounded for a signal or even announcements, as in 2 Samuel 2:28. Joab then blew with a shofar, and all the people halted and pursued Yisra'el no further, nor did they fight any more. So this was obviously back in the day, long time before they had microphones, loudspeakers, or other things to make loud noises, and people used shofars for announcements because these can be heard over a long way. Okay? Recently I was reading on Facebook where someone was asking what kind of shofars should we blow for Yom Teruah, or the day of shouting, or the day of the trumpets, and somebody suggested that we should blow silver trumpets on Yom Teruah, and that is a definite no. Let's read about that in Numbers 10, verse 1 and verse 8. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Make 2 silver trumpets for yourself, just 2. Make them of beaten work, and you shall use them for the gathering of the congregation and for breaking camp. And the sons of Aaron the priests blow at the trumpets, and it shall be to you a law forever throughout your generations. So those silver trumpets were to only be blown by the Levitical priesthood. So we need to remember that. These were for the everyday people, okay? The silver ones, just for the priesthood. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the shofar itself. Shofar should be made from the horn of a clean animal, of course, and not all animals that are clean, that grow horns and stuff, are going to have horns or antlers suitable for making trumpets. For example, the deer, the elk, the moose, they all have hard, bony antlers, so you're not going to be able to drill through them or get a hole in them to make a shofar. Okay? They have antlers that consist of solid bone when the velvet falls off, so they won't work. This is a kudu horn off of a kudu ram. Let's use that as an example of what we should use and how a shofar is made. Here's a pic of a kudu, and you can see those long horns, and you can probably picture 2 shofars growing out of its head. A lot of the raw kudu horns are bought from countries like South Africa, where the kudus are raised for their meat. They're not raised just for their horns, they're raised for their meat because they're a large animal, like an elk, I believe, and the meat's very valuable, it's going to be very good, and it's a clean animal. But anyway, after the horns are cut off, they're inspected, and horns with defects, they're not used to make shofars. Now a kudu's horn has an outer sheath of keratin. Keratin is what our hair is made from, what our fingernails are made from, what birds' feathers are made from. The baleen of whales is made from keratin. And they have an inner core of bone. And this bone has to be pulled out so it's hollow so it can be used as a trumpet. They do this by when they take the raw horns that have been cut off, they just let them sit at room temperature somewhere, probably in a barn, for about a year. And by then, the tissue that surrounds the bone, that's between the bone and the outer sheath of keratin, will kind of shrivel up and dry up and rot away. And by then, the bone can be pulled out, kind of unscrewed from the keratin sheath, okay, that we use for a shofar. Here's a picture showing a kudu horn on the right with its core of bone displayed to the left of it. And you can see how that bone would fit up inside that sheath on the right. And they've been kind of turned a little bit to make that display a little more aesthetically pleasing. But anyway, after that bone is pulled out, the bone is discarded because there's nothing we can do with that. And the horn needs to be disinfected and sterilized, and then it can be made into a shofar. But the experts, they know where to cut the tip on these things and exactly where to drill, because you get this too big and it's not going to work as a mouthpiece, and you get it too small and you're not going to be able to blow through it either. So the experts know how to do it. They do sell kudu horns on eBay where it says kudu horn for making shofar, where you make it yourself, but you have to do a lot of research before you do that because you can ruin them very easily. This was the first one I got. I bought this one off of eBay from a company in Israel because I didn't want to mess it up, okay? So I leave it up to the experts, and I recommend doing that for most people. But speaking of eBay, a lot of people say to me, hey, where should I get a shofar? And eBay is a great place to get them because all the different people selling them, it makes the prices a little bit better. They're a little more competitive. I remember shopping around years ago before I bought this one, and the specialty places seem to be very pricey. But that's just what I found a couple of years ago. Well, probably about 5 years ago now, maybe 6. So you may have a different experience these days when you're shopping for one. But anyway, I want to show you an example from eBay. Take note that this video I'm making right here, I'm releasing in November of 2020, so prices may have changed somewhat if you're watching this video at a much later date. But one thing you want to be careful of on eBay is quite often they will use a photo for selling purposes only, and you will get a different shofar than you see pictured in their listing, and this is what you have to pay very careful attention to. Now shofars, they're measured around their curve, and they're all done that way, but obviously if it's stretched around the curve, by the time you lay that out and measure it on a measuring tape, it's going to be longer than the shofar than if you just measured it straight on, like between my fingers. So even though it seems a little bit deceptive and misleading, that's how it works. That's what they all do, okay? So let's look at this screen cap that I took from eBay recently, and this looks like a pretty decent shofar for 55 bucks, right? Yet look at the measurement listed for the one they are actually selling, and it's nowhere near the length of the shofar in the photo that they used. This little shofar right here measures right at 19 inches, and I had a beautiful shofar gifted to me some years ago. And this one, if I can fit it all in the frame, is about 45 inches long, okay? But if we look at the eBay listing, the measurement for the one you would be getting from that listing would be as short as 24 inches. So if you were measuring from here, 24 inches would come up right here and stop, okay? So from this tip to right here is 24 inches. Now let me flash back and forth with that picture I took off of eBay and tell me if the shape and size of this shofar doesn't look very similar to the one that's pictured. See what I mean? I just want everyone to be aware of that. Another thing I want to mention, just because a shofar you purchase had been disinfected doesn't mean that it won't stink. When I got this little one off of eBay here, wow, did this thing stink. And this thing still has a sticker on there that it was made in Israel, and it's all professional and everything. But when I was first trying to blow this thing when I got it, I was almost gagging because the stench was so bad. And you can buy a little bottle of something to squirt down in there that's supposed to remove the smell. I've never tried it, and I've never talked to anyone who has, so I don't know how good it is. But what I did is I just plugged this end up with clay, like that, and I set it in a bucket, and I poured it with bleach until the bleach came almost all the way to the top, and I let that sit with full strength bleach in there. And you have to be very careful doing that because bleach can eat up keratin, okay? You have to be very careful. And so I let that sit in there for a little while, maybe an hour or so, and then I dumped the bleach out and I rinsed it out really good with fresh water. I flushed it out for a long time, and then I let it set in a big tub of fresh water and put the clay back in and filled it all the way up to there and left it set for a couple days because that fresh water will leach that bleach out of things. And that cured most of the smell. Then I could blow it, but over time it'll wear off a little bit too. But it doesn't smell at all now, but sometimes when you first get them, yeah, they're pretty ripe. But you have to be careful that you don't get bleach on the outside on the shiny surface because it can dull it, okay? I've worked with bleach for years for cleaning delicate seashells and all that kind of stuff, so I know what I'm doing. But you have to be very careful, and I don't recommend it unless you know what you're doing or unless you read up on it a little bit, okay? So anyway, let me talk a little bit about shofars. This is an example of a ram's horn. Okay, somebody tried to make this into a shofar, but they didn't know what they were doing. We picked this up cheap at a flea market or something and then tried to fix it to be able to try to use it, but it's pretty much a lost cause. There's too much bone on the end of it. I don't think they cleaned it right, but I just have this to show people of what they'll look like, but this one won't blow, and kind of an example of what not to do. I think this was just a couple of bucks. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that. This large shofar, as I think I mentioned, was a gift from a generous viewer, some guy named Patrick. Thank you very much, Patrick. We absolutely love this thing. These are a little bit pricey, being this big in size. I probably wouldn't have been able to afford this, and we just love it. And this thing has such a clear set of notes, like 5 or 6 notes, and we live in a mountain valley, and we love to blow this thing and then stop right away, and we can hear it echoing off the mountains inside of our valley, and it's a very beautiful thing. I have a video clip of my son and I blowing our shofars at his wedding reception 5 years ago, right before my wife read the closing prayer. And they sound very good being played in tandem. My son had a large one, not quite as big as this one I was gifted, and I was blowing this little one here. But listen to this clip with them both being blown together, and the little one was about an octave lower than my son's. Like I said, I was using this small shofar here with my son at his reception, and even if I'd had the big one, I think I still would have used the smaller one, because that long blast that I played, like I said, was about an octave lower than my son's shofar. And if they were both the same, if we both had used large shofars, it may have been more or less one note and wouldn't have been, you know, you wouldn't have had that rhythm to it. So anyway, some people told me that they had trouble blowing their shofar, so they asked me to do a demo video. Now, I didn't want to make a video just on that. That would be a real short video because I'm more of a one-note wonder when it comes to blowing a shofar. But I will tell you what some people told me when I got my first one, and it helped out a little bit. Okay, I don't play the traditional tune that a lot of shofar players play, where it's all up and down in different notes and everything. Even though I can do it somewhat, like I said, I'm not very well versed on a trumpet. I do one long blast, and it's kind of a very peaceful long note, and that's just kind of the way I do it, okay? Elohim said that we should sound them. He didn't say play Dixie on them or something, so that's what I do. I just give it a long blast and sound the shofar. So let me put away this ram's horn, since that one doesn't play, like I said. Talk about this little one here. This one here, I mean, you get what you pay for. This is the first one we got. And it's hard to play because the mouthpiece is very small on this one. I can blow it, but it's kind of difficult. And I want to say one thing up front. You see these people trying to blow a shofar, and they're coming with all this pressure from their gut, as if that much volume is what makes the shofar sound, and it's not. It comes right from your lip. You just make like a little raspberry from your lip. And when you blow that raspberry right into this hole, then the more air you put into it, the louder it'll get. And blowing straight on is hard for some people, so do it off to the side, from one side to the other. And practice that way and start kind of slow, like... Start slow like that in the front. I don't know if I can do it in the front. It's a little bit harder because I've been doing it from the side for so long. But the side, your lips are a little bit looser. So that's got a tone all of its own. And I can't hit a lot of notes with this one. I'm sure somebody who's an expert in it would be able to. But then I got this big one here. Let me blow this one here. sounds better. So this is what I use most of the time. You can hear it. Oh, sound like an elephant, didn't it? I am blowing it straight on there. Let me move it over here. Almost sound like a foghorn, didn't it? I'm out here in the studio, so I don't want to blast my wife out inside who's studying for college. But anyway, try blowing on the side of your mouth instead of right on. Some people get it right off the bat from the front. I don't know how well that's going to sound over this equipment, but anyway. So try blowing it from your side and start out slow. Start out softly. Just get to make a little sound like, even if it sounds terrible, just practice somewhere. Real slow and get your lip vibrating inside the mouthpiece. That's what you want to do. Here's another helpful tip. If you live in a condo or a small apartment, you start blowing this noise, you're going to be looking around saying, hey, what's that? Is there an animal dying? So every 10 minutes, open your window and look out and say, hey, you guys hearing that? I don't know what that is. That sounds terrible. I hope it stops, and shut your window and go back to it. So anyway, that way you don't get blamed for irritating all the neighbors. Just start out real slow and real easy and practice a little bit. Okay? But anyway, that's about all I have for today for this shofar video. I hope that answered some questions. Like I said, I'm no pro at blowing a shofar. And I just wanted to tell people, just get one from a good source on eBay that's already done. That's probably your best bet. Compare prices. Make sure you're getting the right length. Make sure you're getting the length that you want. And these small ones are fine. I mean, this is all I used for like the first couple of years we were blowing a shofar. And I got to blow this one pretty good. I just don't blow it a lot anymore since I have the nicer one, since I have the bigger one. But, you know, when we get together for Yom Teruah, we all just kind of sit around and make a big noise with a shofar. We've done that, you know, a few times. We did that up on the mountain here, and it's beautiful. I'd like to get together with quite a few people some year and do that. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for being a part of Beit Tefillah. Make sure to sub to the channel if you haven't done so yet, because I'm still rolling with these basics videos, so I'm going to have some more coming up in the future, too. So, shalom to everybody in the dispersion that is doing their very best to obey the Word of God. Everybody be blessed, and have a wonderful day.